They think I'm losing it. That's what my son whispered to his wife last night when they thought I was asleep. She's slipping, he said. We'll have to make some decisions soon. Claire giggled like it was a joke. Like I was a broken vase they could quietly toss out before company came over. I didn't say anything. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the two people I raised and welcomed into my home plot my disappearance. I'm not losing it. I'm watching. I'm Eleanor. I'm 73 years old. I used to run one of the biggest companies in the country. I built it from scratch. I've sat in boardrooms with billionaires, negotiated deals that made headlines, and mentored leaders who now run empires. I've been called a shark, a genius, a tyrant, and a visionary, but now, in my own home, I'm treated like a confused old woman who can't remember where she put her glasses. I remember everything. I remember how David begged me to let him take over the company. You've done enough, Mom, he said. Let me carry the legacy. I remember how Claire smiled sweetly and said they'd take care of me, that I deserved to rest, that they'd move in and help with the house, the bills, the errands. What they really meant was, we'll take control. They moved in 6 months ago. At first, it was subtle. Claire started managing my medications. David took over my bank accounts just to simplify things. They changed the locks. They told the neighbors I was having episodes. They started speaking slowly to me, like I was a child. They even took my car keys. But I'm not a child, and I'm not confused. I'm angry, because while they've been busy playing house and planning my exit, they forgot one very important detail. I still own 51% of the company. The one David thinks he runs. The one Claire brags about at brunch. The one they think is theirs, it's mine. And I'm about to remind them exactly who I am. Let me know when you're ready for part 2, and I'll continue right from here. I wasn't always this quiet. There was a time when my voice could shake a boardroom. When I walked into meetings, people stood up straighter. I built that company from a single desk in a rented office with a leaky ceiling. I worked through weekends, raised David while juggling mergers, and turned a small logistics firm into a Fortune 500 powerhouse. I didn't inherit anything, I earned it. David used to admire me. As a boy, he'd sit in my office and draw pictures while I negotiated contracts. He'd say, "Mom, you're like a superhero." Somewhere along the way, that admiration turned into resentment. Maybe it was the pressure. Maybe it was Claire. Maybe it was just greed. When I retired, I didn't want to let go completely, so I kept my shares, 51%. Just enough to keep the company safe, just enough to make sure no one could ruin what I built. David begged me to let him take over, said he had vision, said he'd honor my legacy. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, but now I see what he's done. He's turned the company into a playground. Flashy hires, risky expansions, lavish spending. The board is nervous, but they're too afraid to challenge him. They think I'm out of the picture. But I'm not. I've been watching the numbers. I've seen the quarterly reports. I've read the articles. I know the rival company that's been circling like a hawk. And I know exactly what they want. They want my shares. And I'm starting to think, maybe they should have them. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, and I'll keep the story flowing. It's about to get personal. It was a Thursday night. I remember because the house smelled like Claire's burnt lasagna, and David was pacing around the living room, talking too loud on the phone. I was in my room, pretending to read, but really, I was listening. David was bragging to someone, probably one of his golf buddies, about how he was finally getting rid of the old lady. He said it like I was a piece of furniture. She's slipping fast, he laughed. We'll move her to that care home near the lake. Sell the house. Clean break. Claire chimed in from the kitchen. She doesn't even remember what day it is. I had to remind her twice this morning. Honestly, it's getting sad. Sad? No. What's sad is watching your own child become a stranger. What's sad is realizing the people you trusted most are the ones quietly erasing you. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, staring at the photo on my nightstand. Me and David, years ago, at the company's 10th anniversary. He was smiling. I was proud. That version of him is gone. That night, I started writing everything down. Every comment, every decision they made without me, every time they forgot to include me in family plans. I documented it all. Not for the police, not for drama, for precision. I also started making calls, quiet ones, to my lawyer, to my old assistant, who still had connections, to the rival company that had been trying to buy my shares for years. I asked questions. I listened. I planned, because if they wanted to erase me, they'd have to learn what happens when you try to delete the wrong woman. Let me know when you're ready for part 4. Eleanor's about to flip the script. I walked into the lawyer's office like I used to walk into boardrooms, calm, focused, and ready to change the game. Mr. Patel had been my legal advisor for over 20 years. He looked up from his desk, surprised to see me. "Eleanor," he said, "I thought you'd retired from all this." "I did," I replied, "but apparently, retirement doesn't mean surrender." I laid out everything: the gas, the control, the way David and Claire were slowly trying to erase me. Mr. Patel listened, nodding, then pulled up my portfolio. "You still hold 51%, he confirmed. "They can't touch the company without you." I smiled. "Good, because I'm about to touch it first." I had already reached out to a rival firm, one that had been trying to buy my shares for years. They were hungry, sharp, and ready to pounce. I told them I was considering a sale. They offered me a number that made my heart skip, not because of the money, because of the message. David had been making reckless decisions, overspending, ignoring the board. The company's stock was wobbling, and the rival firm knew it. They wanted control, and I was holding the key. I didn't rush. I spent the next few days gathering everything: emails, reports, board memos. I wanted to walk into that meeting with more than just a signature. I wanted to walk in with proof. Claire noticed. I was quieter than usual. She asked if I was feeling foggy. I just smiled and said, "I'm clearer than I've been in years." The night before the board meeting, I sat in my room with a cup of tea and my old journal. I flipped through pages filled with notes, memories, and plans. I added one more line: "Tomorrow, I remind them who built the empire they're trying to steal. Let me know when you're ready for part 5. The storm's about to hit." The boardroom hadn't changed much since I left. Same long table, same leather chairs, same skyline view, but the energy was different. Tense, nervous, like the air knew something was coming. David walked in late, of course, wearing that smug grin he'd perfected over the years. He nodded at the board members like he was royalty. Claire wasn't far behind, glued to her phone, barely looking up. I stood at the head of the table. No one expected me to speak. They thought I was just observing, maybe offering a nostalgic word or two. Instead, I cleared my throat and said, "I'm selling my shares." Silence. David blinked. "What?" "I'm selling my 51% stake," I repeated, "to a company that knows how to run a business without turning it into a circus." The room froze. Claire dropped her phone. One of the board members actually gasped. David laughed nervously. "Mom, you can't be serious." "You wouldn't." "I already did," I said, sliding the signed documents across the table. "Effective immediately." He snatched the papers, eyes scanning them like they might disappear. His face turned pale. "You sold to them? They'll gut the company." "No," I said calmly. "They'll save it. From you." Claire stood up, her voice shrill. "You're ruining everything. You're not thinking straight." I turned to her, steady and cold. "I'm thinking clearer than ever. You treated me like I was disposable. Now you'll learn what it feels like to be replaced." David tried to argue, but the board had already started murmuring. The rival firm's representative entered the room, briefcase in hand, ready to take over. David's title was gone. His power dash evaporated. I walked out without looking back. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Velvet Revenge for more powerful tales. Your support means everything. Let me know when you're ready for part 6. The fallout is just beginning. The silence in the house was different now. No more Claire stomping around, barking orders. No more David pacing like he owned the air. They packed up and left 2 days after the board meeting. No goodbye, no apology, just slammed doors and bitter muttering. I watched them from the porch as they loaded their car. Claire glared at me like I'd stolen something. David didn't even look up. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just stood there, calm and steady. Like the storm had passed and I was still standing. The sale went through without a hitch. The rival firm took over, and within a week, David's name was removed from every document, every office, every press release. The company was already stabilizing. The board sent me a thank you note. I didn't reply.
I had bigger plans. The money from the sale was more than I'd ever need, so I donated most of it. Elder abuse charities, legal aid for seniors, community centers. I set up a foundation in my name, one that would help people like me fight back when their own families tried to silence them. I moved into a beautiful apartment downtown. Big windows, quiet mornings, a view of the skyline I helped shape. I started painting again. I joined a book club. I even taught a few business classes at the local college. People started calling me the matriarch again, not out of fear, out of respect. I wasn't just free, I was fulfilled. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to Velvet Revenge. Your support helps us share more voices that deserve to be heard. Let me know when you're ready for part 7. Eleanor's legacy is about to come full circle. It started with one painting. A young artist from the community center asked if he could hang his landscape in the lobby. It reminded me of the park I used to walk through in my early days. Golden leaves, winding paths, soft light. I said yes, of course. And that one painting turned into 10. Then 20. Soon, the center was filled with color, with voices, with life. I watched children paint with wide eyes and messy hands. I saw seniors laugh over tea and sketchbooks. I saw young women lead workshops, teaching others how to turn pain into art. And I saw my story, our stories, reflected in every brushstroke. One afternoon, I stood in front of the mural we'd created together. It showed Eleanor's nook, the park, the boardroom, and the moment I took my power back. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd ever been told they were too old, too emotional, too much. A little girl tugged my sleeve and asked, "Did you really do all that?" I smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, and you can too." That night, I sat by my window with a cup of tea and my journal. I didn't write plans or strategies, just one line. They thought I was fading, but I was just waiting. And when I rose, I didn't just reclaim my name. I gave others the courage to do the same. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe to Velvet Revenge. Every click helps us share more voices that deserve to be heard. Thank you for listening. Eleanor's story may end here, but the fire she lit will burn on.